Admiral Treshikol stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominance, and watched the stars move past the viewing screen. He felt satisfaction deep in his chest. Another rebellion crushed. Another world brought back under Imperial control. The Kalthine colonies had thought they could break away from the Valorian Empire. They were wrong. They were always wrong. The Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. 847 star systems bowed to Valoria Prime. The military might of the Empire was absolute. No one could stand against them. No one had ever truly tried, not in the last 1,000 years anyway. "Admiral, sir," called out Sensor Officer Miralin from her station. She was young for her position, but sharp. Her 4 eyes blinked in sequence as she studied her screens. "I'm picking up something unusual on long-range sensors." Treshikol turned his large frame toward her. His scales, marking him as a high-ranking Valorian, gleamed under the bridge lights. "Unusual how?" "There's a ship, sir. Single vessel. It's emerging from Dead Zone Sector 7. Miralin's fingers moved quickly over her controls. That sector contains only one cataloged world, Earth, a primitive planet. We surveyed it 500 years ago and found nothing of value. Pre-FTL civilization, no space travel capability. Captain Zevthor, who commanded the day-to-day operations of the flagship, leaned forward in his command chair. "Probably a debris field or a comet. Dead zones give false readings all the time." "No, sir," Miralin said, her voice uncertain. "This is definitely a ship. It has a power signature. It's moving under its own propulsion. But sir, the design doesn't match anything in our database." That got Treshikol's attention. The Imperial database contained information on every known ship design in the galaxy. Every civilization that had ever reached the stars had been catalogued. "Show me." The main viewing screen shifted. The image was grainy at this distance, but clear enough. The ship was small by Imperial standards, maybe frigate class. Its hull was dark, almost black, with strange angular surfaces. No markings, no identification transponder signal, nothing. "Enhance," Treshikol ordered. The image zoomed closer. The ship's hull seemed to absorb their sensor scans rather than reflect them. The surface had a strange texture, like it was made of material that shouldn't exist. The engines glowed with a blue-white light that was wrong somehow. "Too bright, too focused. What's its speed?" Treshikol asked. Miralin checked her instruments twice before answering. "Sir, it's traveling at 0.95 light speed, without using visible FTL engines." Silence fell across the bridge. That was impossible. Even Imperial ships needed massive jump drives to exceed light speed. This ship was moving at near-light velocity using what appeared to be conventional engines. The energy requirements alone should have been impossible. "Where is it heading?" Captain Zevthor asked. "Directly toward us, sir," Miralin replied. "Current course will bring it within weapons range in approximately 40 minutes. Treshikol considered this. An unknown ship using unknown technology, heading straight for an Imperial fleet. It was either incredibly stupid or incredibly dangerous. Probably both. "Open hailing frequencies. All standard protocols. I want to know who they are and what they want." The communications officer, a thin Valorian named Kresh, worked his console. "Broadcasting on all known frequencies, sir. Standard Imperial greeting." No response. They waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. The unknown ship continued its approach, not slowing, not changing course. "Send it again," Treshikol ordered. In all 847 known languages. Kresh's fingers flew over his controls. "Transmitting now, sir." Another pause. "Still no response, Admiral." Treshikol felt the first stirring of anger. How dare this ship ignore the Valorian Empire? "Fire a warning shot." Plasma bolt minimum power. "Put it across their bow. Let them know we won't tolerate this disrespect." "Yes, sir," Zevthor said. He touched his command screen. "Weapons," you heard the Admiral. Warning shot. Across the bow. The Eternal Dominance's forward plasma cannons charged with a low hum that resonated through the hull. A bright bolt of superheated matter shot through space, crossing the path of the approaching ship at a safe distance. It was standard Imperial protocol. A warning. A show of strength. The unknown ship didn't slow down. Didn't change course. Didn't react at all. Did they see it? Treshikol asked. "They had to, sir," Miralin said. She was leaning close to her screens now, her voice tight with confusion. "That shot would have lit up every sensor they have. But Admiral, I'm detecting something new. The ship is deploying some kind of external systems. small modules extending from the hull. Weapons? Captain Zevthor was on his feet now. I don't think so, sir. They're too small. Maybe sensor arrays? Or communication equipment. I can't identify them. Treshkull had commanded fleets for 60 years. He had fought in 17 major engagements and won them all. He trusted his instincts, and right now those instincts were screaming that something was very wrong. This ship wasn't behaving like any ship should. No communication. No acknowledgement. Just constant forward movement. All ships battle formation Delta, he ordered. If this ship wants a fight, we'll give it one. But we'll do it on our terms. Across the fleet, 12 battlecruisers moved into position. 40 destroyers formed a defensive screen. Hundreds of smaller support craft took up their assigned positions. The formation was perfect, practiced through centuries of military tradition. The full might of an Imperial battle fleet ready for combat. The unknown ship continued forward. It was close enough now that they could see details without enhancement. The hull was smooth in some places, angular in others. There were no visible weapon ports, no obvious shield emitters. It looked more like a piece of art than a warship. Try communication again, Treshkull said. Last chance before we consider this ship hostile. Kresh transmitted the message. They waited. Seconds ticked by. No response, Admiral, Kresh finally said. Treshkull straightened his uniform. Decision time. Unknown ship, unknown technology, refusing all communication, heading directly toward an Imperial fleet. Imperial law was clear. Order destroyers Hammer and Anvil to close and disable that vessel. EMP weapons. I want it dead in space. Then we board it and find out what we're dealing with. Yes, sir, Captain Zevthor said. The two destroyers broke formation, their engines flaring as they accelerated toward the unknown ship. They were fast, powerful ships, each one capable of destroying a small moon. The EMP weapons they carried could shut down any known technology. Nothing could resist an electromagnetic pulse of that magnitude. The destroyers reached firing position. Twin beams of electromagnetic energy lanced out, invisible to the naked eye but devastating to any electronic system. The beams hit the unknown ship directly. Miralyn gasped. Admiral! The ship's hull is doing something. The surface is shimmering, like it's dispersing the EMP somehow. The energy is just spreading across the hull and dissipating into space. Impossible, Zevthor breathed. But it was happening. The unknown ship continued forward completely unaffected. The EMP weapons that could stop any ship in the galaxy had done absolutely nothing. All weapons target that ship, Treshkull ordered. His voice was calm, but his hearts were beating faster. Plasma cannons, kinetic missiles, everything. I want that ship stopped now. Warning klaxons blared across the fleet, weapons charged, targeting systems locked on. The eternal dominance alone carried enough firepower to destroy a city. The full fleet could crack a planet. Admiral, Miralyn's voice cut through the bridge chatter. She sounded scared now. Sir, the unknown ship is slowing down. It's matching our speed. And Admiral, I'm detecting a massive power surge across all its systems. Every system is activating simultaneously. What kind of systems? Treshkull demanded. I don't know, sir. The energy readings don't make sense. They're building exponentially. Whatever they're charging, it's drawing more power than our entire flagship. Weapon status, Captain Zevthor called out. All batteries charged and ready, sir, the weapons officer replied. Targeting solution locked. Waiting for your command. Treshkull looked at the viewing screen. The unknown ship hung there in space, dark and mysterious. Something about it reminded him of a predator waiting, watching. He had a sudden, powerful urge to order the fleet to withdraw, to turn around and leave this ship alone. But he was an admiral of the Valorian Empire. He didn't retreat from single ships. He didn't run from unknowns. The Empire had stood for 3,000 years because admirals like him made the hard choices. Fire all weapons, he said. Before the weapons officer could execute the command, everything changed. The unknown ship vanished from their sensors. One moment it was there, solid and real. The next moment every sensor screen went blank. No thermal signature, no electromagnetic reading, nothing. It was like the ship had simply ceased to exist. Where did it go? Zevthor shouted. Find it! Scanning all frequencies, sir, Miralyn said, her four eyes wide with panic. It's not there. It's just gone. It's like it jumped to FTL, but there was no jump signature, no energy spike, nothing that would indicate. She stopped. Her face went pale. "What is it?" Treshkol asked. "Sir, it's back. But it's not where it was. It's moved 3,000 kilometers in an instant. No acceleration. No thrust trail. It just appeared in a different location." The viewing screen updated. The unknown ship was now behind their defensive formation, between the escorts and the flagship. It had somehow moved through space without crossing the distance between. That was impossible. Teleportation didn't exist. It violated a dozen laws of physics. "All ships retarget!" Captain Zevthor was shouting orders now. "Defensive screen, protect the flagship." But before any ship could move, before any weapon could fire, a sound echoed through the bridge. It came from every speaker, every communication panel, every display screen, a calm, mechanical voice speaking perfect Valorian. "Target locked." The voice was flat, emotionless, stating a simple fact. But those two words sent ice through Treshkol's veins. "Sir," Miralyn whispered. She was staring at her screens like they showed her own death. "Admiral, that ship isn't just locked onto us. It's locked onto every ship in the fleet. Every single one." "How is that possible?" "We have 73 ships spread across hundreds of thousands of kilometers. One ship can't possibly target all of us at once." But the evidence was right there on her screens. Every Imperial vessel showed a targeting lock. Active, solid, unbreakable. Treshkol opened his mouth to give an order, though he wasn't sure what order he could possibly give. His ship was faster, his weapons more powerful, his fleet numbered in the dozens. But somehow none of that mattered. They were facing something that didn't follow the rules. The mechanical voice spoke again, and this time there was something different in it. Not emotion exactly, but emphasis. "Wait. This is UESC Retribution, Terran Colonial Defense Fleet. You fired upon a human vessel without provocation. Under Terran military code, this constitutes an act of war. You have 10 seconds to power down weapons and submit to scanning. Failure to comply will result in neutralization of military assets. This is your only warning. Human, Terran, the primitive species from Earth, the pre-FTL civilization that couldn't even leave their own solar system 500 years ago." Treshkol felt his world tilting. Everything he knew, everything he believed about the Empire's superiority suddenly seemed uncertain. But he was still an admiral. He still commanded this fleet. And he refused to be intimidated by a single ship, no matter what tricks it had. "This is Fleet Admiral Treshkol of the Valorian Empire," he said, his voice carrying all the authority of 3,000 years of conquest. "You are in Imperial space. You will stand down immediately and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with overwhelming force. You have no chance against this fleet." The countdown continued in his head. 10 seconds. 9, 8. "All weapons free," he ordered quietly. "Fire everything we have." The bridge crew hesitated for just a moment. Then training took over. Fingers moved over controls. Weapon systems armed. Targeting computers confirmed locks. 5 seconds. 4, 3. On the viewing screen, the dark ship hung in space, silent and waiting. 2 seconds. "Fire!" Captain Zevthor screamed. 1 second. The Imperial fleet unleashed hell. Plasma cannons firing, kinetic missiles launching, energy beams cutting through space. Enough firepower to vaporize a moon, all focused on one small ship. 0. The unknown ship didn't move, didn't dodge. For a heartbeat, Treshkol thought they had won. That overwhelming firepower would triumph like it always did. Then his bridge went dark. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in red. Alarm klaxons wailed. Display screens sparked and died. The weapon systems powered down. Navigation went offline. Even the engines stopped their constant hum. "Report," Treshkol shouted over the chaos. "Sir, we've lost all primary systems," someone called out. "Weapons, navigation, shields, everything. Only life support and backup power are still functioning." Captain Zevthor was frantically working his console, but nothing responded. "Admiral, we're dead in space." "And sir, I'm getting reports from the other ships. Every vessel in the fleet is reporting the same thing. Complete system failure across the board." Miralyn managed to get one sensor screen working. What she saw made her voice crack. "Admiral, that ship. The human ship. It's fine. All our weapons hit it dead on and it's completely undamaged. Not a scratch on it." "How is that possible?" Treshkol stared at the viewing screen, which was running on emergency power now. The dark ship was still there, still silent. Still watching them with what felt like contempt. "What have we done?" he whispered. The mechanical voice returned, and this time it carried a weight that made everyone on the bridge freeze. You chose poorly. The Eternal Dominance floated helpless in space. All around it, the pride of the Imperial fleet drifted like dead metal. No engines, no weapons, no communications beyond short-range emergency channels. 73 warships, each one a masterpiece of Valorian engineering, reduced to nothing more than expensive tombs. Admiral Treshkol stood on his darkened bridge, illuminated only by the red glow of emergency lighting. His hands gripped the railing so hard his claws scraped the metal. In 60 years of service, he had never felt so powerless. The flagship that had conquered 17 star systems couldn't even move. How? Captain Zevthor asked the question quietly, like speaking too loud might bring another attack. How did one ship do this to an entire fleet? Miralyn was hunched over her backup sensor console, the only one still functioning. Her 4 eyes reflected the dim screen light as she studied the readings. Sir, I've been analyzing what happened. That ship didn't use conventional weapons. It deployed some kind of electromagnetic pulse, but it was different from anything in our database. It was adaptive. Adaptive. Treshkol turned toward her. What does that mean? Our EMP weapons blast everything with the same frequency, Miralyn explained. Her voice shook slightly. It's like hitting every lock with a hammer, but what that ship used was more like having a key for every lock. It specifically targeted our command systems, our weapons arrays, our engines. It left life support and emergency power intact. Whoever designed this weapon knew exactly how our ships work. They knew our systems better than we do. The implications of that statement hung in the air like poison. The Valorian Empire had never shared their technology with outsiders. Their ship designs were classified at the highest levels. Yet somehow, humans from a world that was supposed to be primitive had not only learned their technology, but had learned how to defeat it. Maybe they captured some of our ships, Captain Zevthor suggested. Maybe rebels sold them our secrets. But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't true. What they had just witnessed went beyond stolen technology. This was something else entirely. The human ship still hung in space, visible through the viewing screen. It hadn't moved since the attack. It just waited, like a predator watching wounded prey decide whether to fight or flee. Incoming transmission, the communications officer called out. Audio only. It's coming from the human ship. Put it through, Treshkol said. He straightened his uniform, a habit from decades of military service. Even in defeat, an Imperial admiral maintained dignity. The voice that came through the speakers was different from the mechanical one before. This voice was human, female, and carried an authority that made everyone on the bridge listen. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command ship Retribution. I'm addressing Admiral Treshkol of the Valorian Empire. Your fleet is disabled but intact. Your crews are alive and unharmed. This was intentional. We could have destroyed every ship here. We chose not to. I want you to understand that before we continue this conversation. Treshkol found his voice, though it came out rougher than he intended. What do you want, Captain? I want to explain something to your empire, Captain Chen replied. 500 years ago, your scouts came to Earth. They scanned our planet, looked at our technology, and decided we were too primitive to bother with. They put us in what you call a dead zone and forgot about us. That was your mistake. We made no mistake, Treshkol said, but his words lacked conviction. Earth had no spaceflight, no advanced technology. The survey records were clear. The survey records were correct, Captain Chen said. At that time, we couldn't leave our atmosphere. We had no faster-than-light travel. We were, by your standards, primitive. But here's what your scouts didn't understand about humans. We adapt, we learn, and most importantly, we prepare. Miralyn's fingers were flying over her console. She was trying to trace the signal, to get any information about the human ship she could. What she found made her breath catch. Admiral, she whispered. Sir, I'm detecting something. That ship isn't alone. I'm picking up faint signatures. They're hiding, but they're there. At least 24 more ships. They've been here the whole time. Ice formed in Treshkol's stomach. 24 ships, hiding in plain space. Undetectable until now. The human ship in front of them wasn't a lone vessel. It was the tip of a spear. After your scouts left, Captain Chen continued, not knowing that Miralyn had discovered the truth. Earth's governments did something unprecedented. We united. Every nation, every people, every ideology came together because we realized something important. The galaxy wasn't empty. And sooner or later someone would come back. Maybe as friends. Maybe as conquerors. We had to be ready for either. So you've been preparing for 500 years? Treshikol asked. Preparing for war with us? Not war, Captain Chen corrected. Preparation. We studied everything your scouts left behind. Radiation traces from your engines. Electromagnetic signatures from your sensors. Communication fragments. We learned your language from radio transmissions you didn't bother to encrypt. We watched your empire expand. We saw how you treat those who resist. We saw what you did to the Calthene when they asked for freedom. Captain Zevthor stepped forward. The Calthene were rebels. They violated Imperial law. They had to be brought to order. There was a pause before Captain Chen spoke again. When she did, her voice was colder. They were people who wanted to govern themselves. You bombed their cities because they refused to obey you. Over 2 million dead. Men, women, children. We watched it happen on our sensors. That's when humanity made a decision. We would never let the Valorian Empire do that to Earth. You don't understand, Treshkol said. And he was surprised by the defensiveness in his own voice. The Empire maintains order across 847 systems. Without that order, there would be chaos, war, suffering. You maintain control, Captain Chen replied. That's not the same as order. And now you're going to learn something about humanity. We don't do well with control. We tried it ourselves for thousands of years. Empires rose and fell on Earth. Every single one thought they would last forever. Every single one collapsed. We learned from that. We learned that no one has the right to rule over others without consent. Miralyn looked up from her console. Admiral, I'm getting more readings. The hidden ships are moving into position. They're surrounding us. On the dim viewing screen, space seemed to shimmer. One by one, ships appeared out of nothing. They had been there all along, using some kind of stealth technology that made them invisible to Imperial sensors. The ships varied in size and design, but all of them shared the same dark, angular aesthetic as the Retribution. 27 ships. The Retribution and 26 others, against an Imperial fleet that couldn't even fire its weapons. Let me tell you what's going to happen now, Captain Chen said. Her voice was calm, stating facts. In approximately 6 hours, a much larger Imperial fleet will arrive here. Your high command will have received Admiral Treshkol's distress call. They'll send reinforcements, probably the 7th Battle Group. Around 250 ships, including your newest dreadnought. How do you know that? Captain Zevthor demanded. Because we've been monitoring your communications for 500 years, Captain Chen replied. We know your military protocols. We know your response patterns. We know how your empire thinks. And Captain, that's the difference between us. You never bothered to learn about us. You assumed we would stay primitive. You assumed wrong. Treshkol felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Fear. Not for himself, but for his empire. Everything he knew about military tactics told him they were facing a superior force. Not superior in numbers or raw power, but in something more dangerous. Knowledge, preparation, intent. What are your demands? He asked quietly. I don't have demands, Admiral, Captain Chen said. I have a message, and you're going to deliver it to your high command. Are you ready? Treshikol nodded, then realized she couldn't see him. Yes, I'm ready. Tell your leaders this. Earth wants nothing from the Valorian Empire. We don't want your territory. We don't want your resources. We don't want to conquer you. We just want to be left alone in peace. But if your empire comes to Earth with hostile intent, if you try to do to us what you did to the Calthene, you won't face 1 ship or 20 ships. You'll face humanity. All of humanity. And Admiral, I need you to understand something about humans. She paused, and in that pause, Treshkol heard the weight of centuries. We are very, very good at war. The communication cut off. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of emergency systems and the quiet beeping of Miralyn's console. Sir, she said softly, the human ships are leaving. They're moving away from us. On the viewing screen, the 27 dark ships began to move. They didn't use conventional engines. There was no thrust plume, no engine flare. They simply accelerated faster and faster until they blurred and vanished. Faster than light travel without jump gates or visible drives. Just instant acceleration into impossible speeds. Where are they going? Captain Zevthor asked. Heading toward Earth's solar system, Miralyn reported. They'll be there in less than an hour at their current speed. Treshkol stared at the empty space where the human fleet had been. His mind was racing through everything that had happened. The disabled fleet, the hidden ships, the casual demonstration of superior technology, and most disturbing of all, the restraint. Captain Chen could have destroyed them. She could have killed 73 ships worth of crew, tens of thousands of Valorians dead in seconds. She chose not to. That choice terrified him more than any weapon could. "How long until we get main systems back online?" he asked. The engineering officer, who had been working frantically at his station, looked up. His face was grim. "Sir, whatever they did to our systems, it's deep. The damage isn't physical. It's in the software. Every command protocol has been scrambled. We're going to have to manually reset and reboot every system. 12 hours minimum, sir. Maybe longer. 12 hours. The human fleet would be long gone by then, and the 7th Battle Group would arrive in 6 hours to find the entire Imperial fleet, floating helpless and defeated. "Get to work," Treshkol ordered. "I want this ship operational as fast as possible." As the crew rushed to follow orders, Captain Zevthor moved close to the Admiral. He spoke in a low voice meant only for Treshkol's ears. "Sir, what are we going to tell High Command? How do we explain this?" Treshkol didn't answer immediately. How did he explain that everything the Empire believed about its own superiority was wrong? How did he tell his superiors that somewhere in the galaxy, a species existed that could defeat them with ease? How did he admit that he, an admiral with 60 years of experience, had been beaten without a single shot successfully fired? "We tell them the truth," he finally said. "We tell them that Earth is no longer a dead zone. We tell them that humanity is not primitive. And we tell them that if they send the 7th Battle Group to Earth, they're making a terrible mistake." "Will they listen?" Captain Zevthor asked. Treshkol thought about the Grand Marshal and the High Council. He thought about 3,000 years of conquest and victory. He thought about the pride that ran through every level of Valorian society, the belief that they were the apex, the pinnacle, the ultimate power in the galaxy. "No," he said quietly. "They won't listen. They'll think humans got lucky. They'll think we were incompetent. They'll send the fleet because that's what the Empire always does. Overwhelming force. Total victory. It's worked for 3,000 years. And now?" Captain Zevthor asked. Treshkol looked at the empty space where the human ships had been. He thought about Captain Chen's calm voice, about the perfect precision of their attack, about the 27 ships hiding in plain space, about 500 years of preparation, about a species that united in the face of a threat instead of fracturing. "Now," he said slowly, "the 7th Battle Group is going to learn what we just learned. And I pray to the ancestors that some of them survive to carry the message back, because if they don't, if High Command doesn't believe us, they'll keep sending fleets. They'll escalate. And eventually the humans will stop showing restraint." Captain Zevthor's face went pale. "You think the humans were holding back?" "I know they were holding back," Treshkol said. He moved to the viewing screen and placed one clawed hand against it. "Captain Chen said they could have destroyed us." "I believe her. She could have wiped out this entire fleet and left no survivors to tell the tale. But she didn't. She disabled us. She left us alive. She even left life support intact so we wouldn't suffocate. That's not what a warrior does to an enemy." "Then what is it?" Captain Zevthor asked. Treshkol turned away from the screen. His face was heavy with a truth he was only beginning to understand. "It's what a teacher does to a student. She's trying to teach us something. She's trying to show us that the old way doesn't work anymore, that the Empire's age is ending." He walked toward his command chair and sank into it. Suddenly he felt every one of his years. The question is whether we're smart enough to learn the lesson, or stubborn enough to die fighting. Around him, his crew worked frantically to restore the ship, but Treshkol knew that no amount of repairs would fix what had truly broken today. The myth of Imperial invincibility was shattered. The belief that the Valorian Empire stood alone at the top of the Galactic Order was destroyed. Somewhere out there, heading toward their home star, humanity waited. And they had been waiting for 500 years. The 7th Battle Group didn't know what was coming. Treshkol did, and he was afraid. Inside the USC Retribution, Captain Sarah Chen sat in her command chair and watched her crew work with practiced efficiency. The bridge was smaller than an Imperial flagship, but every inch of space served a purpose. Screens displayed tactical data, officers monitored systems. Everything was clean, functional, and designed with one goal in mind: survival. "All ships reporting in, Captain," said Commander James Park from the tactical station. He was her second in command. a man who had served with her for 15 years. No damage. All systems green. The Imperial fleet never got a shot off. They got plenty of shots off, Sarah corrected. They just didn't hit anything. Lieutenant Maya Torres, the ship's pilot, turned from her station. That was almost too easy, Captain. I mean 73 ships? An entire Imperial battle group. And we took them down in seconds. Are they really the force that controls most of the galaxy? Sarah understood the question. After 500 years of preparation, after centuries of wondering if they could stand against the Valorian Empire, the actual encounter had been almost anticlimactic. But she knew better than to let confidence become arrogance. Don't underestimate them, she said firmly. Yes, we won today. But we had every advantage. We chose the time and place. We studied them for 5 centuries while they didn't know we existed. We hit them with weapons specifically designed to counter their technology. If they had been ready for us, if they had known what we could do, this battle might have gone very differently. Do you think they'll come to Earth? Commander Park asked. Sarah pulled up a tactical display. It showed their current position and the trajectory toward their home system. Behind them, 73 disabled Imperial ships drifted in space. Ahead of them, Earth waited. Yes, she said. They'll come. The Empire doesn't back down from challenges. They'll see what happened here as an insult that demands response. My guess is they'll send a much larger fleet. Maybe the whole 7th battle group that their intelligence suggests they use for major threats. 250 ships, Lieutenant Torres said quietly, against our defensive fleet. Can we hold? We're about to find out, Sarah replied. She touched her command console, opening a ship-wide channel. All hands, this is the captain. I know you're all feeling good right now. We just faced an Imperial fleet and won without taking a single hit. But I need you to understand something. This was the easy part. What comes next will test everything we've built for the last 500 years. Stay sharp. Stay focused. And remember why we're doing this. She closed the channel and leaned back in her chair. Her mind drifted to history, to the moment that had changed everything for humanity. 500 years ago, the Valorian scouts had come. They had scanned Earth, cataloged it as primitive, and left. Most humans never knew they were there. But governments knew. Scientists knew. And they understood what it meant. Humanity was not alone in the universe. And they were being watched. The response had been unprecedented. Nations that had been enemies for generations came together. Resources were pooled. Scientists shared research. The entire species united around a single goal: survival. They couldn't catch up to civilizations that had been traveling between stars for millennia. But they could innovate. They could find different solutions to the same problems. Where the Valorians used massive engines and jump gates, humans developed quantum entanglement drives that folded space. Where the Empire relied on energy shields, humanity created metamaterial armor that absorbed and dispersed attacks. Where other species built bigger weapons, humans built smarter ones, and they did it all in secret. Every ship they launched looked like a civilian vessel or a scientific probe. Every weapon platform was disguised as a mining station. For 500 years, humanity prepared for a war they hoped would never come, while looking like they were still confined to their own solar system. Captain, Commander Park said, pulling her from her thoughts. We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Defense Command. It's Admiral Kowalski. Sarah straightened. Admiral James Kowalski was the supreme commander of all UESC forces. If he was calling directly, the situation had escalated. Put him through. The screen in front of her changed. Admiral Kowalski's face appeared. He was an older man, gray hair and lines around his eyes, but those eyes were sharp and calculating. Behind him, Sarah could see the command center deep beneath the Pacific Ocean where UESC ran all military operations. Captain Chen, Kowalski said without preamble, good work with the Imperial fleet. We monitored everything. Your tactical assessment was perfect, but we have a problem. The 7th Battle Group, Sarah said. It wasn't a question, exactly. Our long-range sensors picked them up 30 minutes ago, 253 ships to be precise. They're moving fast. They'll reach Earth's solar system in approximately 72 hours. And Captain, they're not coming to talk. Intelligence suggests they've armed their entire fleet with maximum firepower. They're planning to make an example of us. Sarah felt her crew tense around her. 73 ships had been manageable. 253 was a different story entirely. What are our orders, sir? She asked. Kowalski was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. I'm giving you a choice, Captain. You and the other ship commanders. You can fall back to Earth's defensive perimeter and prepare for the battle there, or you can take the offensive. Hit them before they reach our system. We have intelligence on their fleet composition and likely approach vectors. If we hit them first, we lose the defensive advantage, Commander Park said from his station. Earth's orbital defenses are the strongest position we have. True, Admiral Kowalski agreed. But if we let them reach Earth, the battle will be fought in our home system. Any ships that get through could strike the planet itself. Billions of lives at risk. If you attack them in open space, even if you lose, you buy us time to evacuate civilians and prepare final defenses. Sarah understood what he was really saying. He was asking her to take 27 ships against 253. To fight in open space where the enemy had numerical superiority. To possibly die so that Earth would have a few more hours to prepare. She didn't hesitate. We'll intercept them, she said. We'll hit them hard and fast. Use every advantage we have. But Admiral, I need authorization for full weapons release. No restrictions. Kowalski nodded slowly. Authorized. Rules of engagement are weapons free. But Captain, remember what makes us different from them. The Valorians kill to conquer. We fight to protect. Don't lose sight of that. Understood, sir. Retribution out. The screen went dark. Sarah looked around her bridge at her crew. They were young, most of them. The oldest was 45. They had all been born into a world preparing for war. They had trained their entire lives for this moment. All ships battle formation Theta, she ordered. We're going hunting. Set course to intercept the 7th battle group. Maximum speed. Course laid in, Captain, Lieutenant Torres said. Her hands moved over the controls. FTL in 3, 2, 1. The ship lurched slightly as the quantum drive engaged. Outside the viewing ports, space twisted and folded. The Retribution and its sister ships vanished from normal space, traveling faster than light without the visible energy signature that Imperial ships produced. They would reach the 7th battle group in 18 hours. And then humanity would show the Valorian Empire what 500 years of preparation really meant. But Sarah's thoughts weren't on the coming battle. They were on a conversation she'd had years ago with her mentor, the previous captain of the Retribution. He had told her something that stuck with her. The Valorians think strength means never backing down, he had said. They think showing mercy is weakness. That's why they'll lose. Because sometimes, Sarah, the strongest thing you can do is choose not to destroy your enemy. Give them a chance to learn. Give them a chance to be better. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. She hoped he was right. Because in 72 hours, Earth would find out if humanity's way was better than the Empire's. If 500 years of preparation would be enough. If mercy was really strength, or if the Valorian Empire would add Earth to its long list of conquered worlds. Meanwhile, deep in Imperial space on the capital world of Valoria Prime, the High Council met in emergency session. The chamber was ancient, built from stone quarried from the first world the Empire had ever conquered. 12 High Councilors sat in a circle, and in the center stood Grand Marshal Kethvar, Supreme Commander of all Imperial military forces. He was old, even by Valorian standards. His scales had faded to a dull gray, but his eyes were still sharp and his voice still commanded respect. Explain to me, he said slowly, dangerously, how a single ship from a primitive world disabled an entire Imperial fleet. The councilors shifted uncomfortably. No one wanted to be the first to speak. Finally, Councilor Veshitar, head of Imperial Intelligence, stood. Grand Marshal, we have reviewed Admiral Treshkol's report. It appears that Earth is not the primitive world we believed it to be. They have developed advanced technology, stealth systems, weapons designed specifically to counter our ships, and they claim to have been preparing for this for 500 years. 500 years, Grand Marshal Kethvar repeated. You're telling me that for 5 centuries this species has been preparing for war with us, and our intelligence never detected it. They were very careful, Grand Marshal, Veshitar said, but his voice lacked confidence. They disguised their military assets as civilian infrastructure. They never used their advanced ships where we could see them. Until now, they appeared to be exactly what our initial survey said. A pre-FTL civilization confined to their home system. Appeared to be, Kethvar said softly. And what do they actually appear to be now? Another counselor, Treshkor, stood. He was younger, more aggressive. They appear to be a threat that must be eliminated. Grand Marshal, I recommend we authorize the use of planet-killer weapons. Strike Earth directly. End this before it becomes a larger problem. Several counselors nodded agreement, but others looked shocked. Planet killers? Counselor Miracel said. She was one of the older members, a voice of caution. Those weapons have been banned for 500 years. We swore never to use them again after the Kelthon massacre. That was different, Treshkor argued. The Kelthons were part of the Empire. They were our own people who rebelled. Earth is an outside threat, a species that has been hiding their true capabilities and planning against us for centuries. If we don't act decisively, they could inspire other worlds to rebel. He has a point, another counselor said. If word spreads that a single human ship defeated an Imperial fleet, every subjugated species will see hope. Rebellion will spread like fire. Grand Marshal Kethvar listened to them argue. He had commanded fleets for 70 years. He had fought in every major engagement the Empire had seen in that time. And he knew something that these politicians didn't understand. We will not use planet killers, he said firmly. The arguing stopped immediately. Not because of mercy, not because of some ancient oath, but because if we destroy Earth without understanding how they achieved what they achieved, we learn nothing, and an enemy you don't understand can't be defeated. He moved to a holographic display in the center of the chamber. It showed the galaxy, with Earth's position marked in red. I'm sending the 7th Battle Group, he continued. 253 ships. Our finest crews. Our best technology. They will engage the human fleet and assess their capabilities. If the humans are truly as advanced as Admiral Treshkor suggests, the 7th will report back. If not, they will conquer Earth and we will learn their secrets from their ruins. And if the 7th fails? Counselor Mirazel asked quietly. Grand Marshal Kethvar's face was grim. Then we'll know that the Empire faces a threat unlike any we've encountered before. And we'll have to decide whether to seek peace or escalate to total war. The counselors absorbed that. The Empire had never sought peace. For 3,000 years they had conquered or destroyed. The idea of negotiating with an enemy was almost unthinkable. I want all Imperial fleets on high alert, Kethvar ordered. Begin immediate review of our cyber warfare protocols. If the humans can shut down our ships remotely, we need countermeasures. And I want our scientists analyzing every second of Admiral Treshkol's sensor data. How do their ships move? How do they hide? What are their weapons made of? I want answers. Yes, Grand Marshal, the counselor said in unison. As the session ended and the counselors filed out, Counselor Miracel approached Kethvar privately. You're worried, she said. It wasn't a question. Kethvar nodded slowly. Admiral Treshkol is one of our best. He's fought in 17 major battles and never lost. If he says these humans are different, I believe him. Different how? They think differently, Kethvar said. The way they fight, disabling ships instead of destroying them, taking prisoners instead of killing crews. That's not how wars are won. That's not how the Empire has ruled for 3,000 years. Maybe, Mirazel said carefully. That's why we should be worried. Because perhaps they're not trying to win a war the way we understand it. Perhaps they're trying to change the rules entirely. Grand Marshal Kethvar looked at the star map, at the tiny red dot that represented Earth. Then they're going to learn that the Empire doesn't play by anyone's rules but our own. The 7th Battle Group emerged from FTL travel near Neptune's orbit. 253 warships arranged in perfect formation. The pride of the Valorian Empire. Behind them, the distant sun was just another bright star. Ahead of them, somewhere in the inner solar system, was Earth. Grand Marshal Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Absolute Victory. It was the newest dreadnought in the Imperial fleet, twice the size of a normal battlecruiser and armed with enough firepower to level a continent. He had personally commanded its construction. Now he would use it to show humanity the cost of defying the Empire. Sensor report, he ordered. The sensor officer studied his displays. Sir, detecting multiple contacts throughout the system. Hundreds of them, but... Grand Marshal, something's wrong. These readings don't make sense. Explain, Kethvar said calmly. Sir, I'm picking up mining stations around Jupiter, research platforms in Saturn's rings, communication satellites in high orbit around the inner planets, civilian traffic between Mars and Earth. Everything looks normal for a developing space civilization. But the energy signatures are all wrong. They're too powerful, too refined. They're disguised, Captain Norval said. She was Kethvar's second in command, a brilliant tactician. Those mining stations are weapons platforms. The research facilities are military bases. The civilian ships are warships. They've turned their entire solar system into a defensive grid. Kethvar nodded slowly. Impressive. And confirming what Admiral Treshkol had reported. These humans were not primitive. They were cunning. How many actual military vessels can you confirm? He asked. The sensor officer worked his controls. Difficult to say, sir. At least 300 confirmed contacts that read as military grade. But there could be more hidden. Their stealth technology is better than ours. 300 ships, against his 253. Closer to even odds than Kethvar had expected. But numbers weren't everything. Imperial ships were larger, more powerful, and they had 3,000 years of combat experience. Open a channel, all frequencies. I want to speak to whoever commands this defense fleet. The communications officer nodded. Channel open, Grand Marshal. Kethvar straightened. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of Imperial authority. This is Grand Marshal Kethvar of the Valorian Empire. You have attacked Imperial forces. You have claimed independence without authorization. Under Imperial law, these are acts of war. I am authorized to offer you one chance to surrender. Lower your defensive systems. Prepare to be occupied. Resistance will result in the total destruction of your military assets and the subjugation of your world. You have 5 minutes to respond. Silence. The bridge crew waited. 5 minutes stretched out. Then a human voice came through the speakers. Male, calm, carrying an accent that the Empire's translation software couldn't quite place. Grand Marshal Kethvar, this is Fleet Admiral James Kowalski, United Earth Space Command. We don't recognize Imperial authority over our solar system. We didn't attack your forces. They attacked us. We defended ourselves. We have no desire for war, but we will not surrender our freedom. Leave our space peacefully and there will be no further conflict. Attack us and you will regret it. Murmurs ran through the bridge. The audacity of it, a primitive species defying the Empire, threatening them. You understand? Kethvar said slowly. That I command the most powerful battle group in the Imperial fleet? That I have destroyed entire civilizations? That resistance is futile? We understand that you believe that, Admiral Kowalski replied. We also understand that you've never faced anyone who fought the way we do. Last warning, Grand Marshal. Leave now. Don't make us destroy your fleet. Now Kethvar felt anger stir. They dared to threaten him? To suggest they could destroy the 7th Battle Group? All ships, he ordered. Battle Formation Alpha. Prepare to engage. Show these primitives the power of the Empire. The fleet moved with practiced precision. Ships taking positions. Weapons charging. Shields at maximum. It was beautiful, the culmination of 3 millennia of military tradition. Sir, the sensor officer said urgently. The human ships. They're not retreating. They're advancing. All of them. And sir, the mining stations and satellites are shedding their outer hulls. They're revealing weapon systems. On the tactical display, Kethvar watched the human fleet move. They didn't form traditional battle lines. Instead, they scattered, spreading across the system in what looked like random patterns. No formation. No organization. It looked like chaos. They're amateurs, Captain Norval said. They don't understand basic fleet tactics. But something about it made Kethvar uneasy. Nothing about these humans had been amateur so far. Why would their tactics be? All ships advance, he ordered. Fire when in range. The 7th Battle Group moved forward, engines flaring. The distance closed. 500,000 kilometers. 400,000. 300,000 in range, sir, the weapons officer reported. Fire. The Imperial fleet opened fire. Hundreds of plasma bolts, kinetic missiles, and energy beams lanced through space toward the human ships. At this range, with this much firepower, nothing could survive. The human ships moved. They didn't accelerate slowly. They just moved instantly, like teleporting. One moment they were in the path of the incoming fire. The next they were somewhere else entirely. The Imperial weapons struck empty space. What just happened? Kethvar demanded. Sir, they're using micro-jumps, the sensor officer said, his voice shaking. Short-range FTL. They're jumping dozens of times per second. Our targeting computers can't lock onto them. Then fire where they're going to be, Captain Norval ordered. Predictive targeting. The first Imperial ship to die was the destroyer Relentless. One moment it was firing its weapons. The next something struck it from 3 different directions simultaneously. Not energy weapons. Not missiles. Small objects moving at impossible speeds. They punched through the destroyer's shields like they weren't even there. Through the armor. Through the hull. The ship exploded, torn apart from the inside. Kinetic kill vehicles, Captain Norval said, understanding. They're firing solid objects at near light speed. Our shields are designed for energy weapons. They're useless against physical projectiles moving that fast. Another ship died. Then another. The humans weren't firing indiscriminately. Each shot was precise, calculated. They were picking off ships one at a time with surgical accuracy. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Kethavar ordered. Scatter pattern Delta. The fleet broke formation, ships spreading out to make themselves harder targets. But it didn't help. The human ships seemed to be everywhere at once. They appeared, fired, and vanished before the Imperial ships could respond. Sir, we're also experiencing system disruptions, the tactical officer reported. Ships across the fleet are reporting weapon malfunctions. Navigation glitches. It's the same cyber warfare attack that hit Admiral Treshkol's fleet. Kethavar watched his tactical display as red icons began appearing. Ships disabled, ships destroyed, ships retreating. In less than 5 minutes, he had lost 30 vessels. 30 ships that represented centuries of construction and training. Gone. This isn't a battle, Captain Norval said quietly. It's an execution. She was right. The humans weren't fighting like warriors. They were fighting like they had already won. Like this was just a formality. Every move was calculated. Every shot found its target. They wasted nothing. No wild firing. No panicked maneuvers. Just cold, efficient destruction. We need to withdraw, Kethavar said. The words tasted like ashes in his mouth. Signal the fleet. Emergency FTL, get us out of here. Sir, if we retreat, the Empire will see us all dead if we stay here, Kethavar snapped. We're not retreating. We're regrouping. Now execute the order. Grand Marshal, the communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They're broadcasting on all channels. Put it through. A new voice came through the speakers. Female, young, but carrying absolute confidence. Attention Imperial 7th Battle Group. This is Captain Sarah Chen, UESC Retribution. You are outmatched. Withdraw now and we'll let you leave. Continue fighting and we'll disable every ship you have. This is your final warning. Kethavar looked at his tactical display. 50 ships lost now. His fleet was being torn apart, and they hadn't destroyed a single human vessel. Not one. He had two choices. Order a full retreat and admit total defeat, or stay and fight knowing his entire fleet would be destroyed. But then something else appeared on his sensors. New contacts, dozens of them. Coming from deeper in the system, from around Earth itself. More human ships emerging from hiding. Sir, the sensor officer said, I'm counting at least 200 additional contacts. They were hiding in Earth's magnetosphere, using the planet's natural electromagnetic field to mask their signatures. 500 ships, maybe more. The humans had 500 ships and they'd only deployed a fraction of them for this battle. They could have overwhelmed the 7th Battle Group from the start. Instead, they'd used minimal forces to prove a point. They didn't need overwhelming numbers to win. They just needed to be better. Signal all ships, Kethavar said quietly. Full retreat. Maximum speed. Sir, Captain Norval started. That's an order, Captain. The fleet turned and fled. Imperial ships engaging their FTL drives in random directions, desperate to escape. The humans let them go. They could have pursued, could have destroyed every escaping ship, but they didn't. As the absolute victory jumped to FTL, leaving behind the debris of 73 destroyed ships and the shame of total defeat. Kethavar received one final transmission from Earth. Grand Marshal, Admiral Kowalski said, take this message back to your Empire. We don't want to be your enemies. We don't want to destroy you. We just want to be left alone. But if you come back, if you try this again, we won't show mercy. The ships you saw today are just the beginning. Earth has been preparing for 500 years. We have weapons you can't imagine, technologies your Empire hasn't dreamed of, and we have something else you don't have. He paused. We have a reason to fight. Every human on Earth, every person in our fleet, knows what we're protecting. Our families, our freedom, our future. Your soldiers fight because they're ordered to. Ours fight because they choose to. That's the difference between us. That's why you lost today. The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the FTL drive. Kethavar stood at his command station and looked at the tactical summary. He had left with 253 ships. He was returning with 180. 73 ships destroyed in less than an hour, thousands of Valorians dead, and they had accomplished nothing except confirming humanity's superiority. "What do we tell the High Council?" Captain Norval asked quietly. Kethavar thought about that. The Empire had never lost a battle this badly, never retreated from a smaller force. The shame would be enormous. Some would call for his execution. Others would demand immediate escalation, throwing every ship the Empire had at Earth until humanity was destroyed. But Kethavar had seen something today that changed everything he thought he knew about war. The humans could have destroyed his entire fleet easily. They had the weapons. They had the position. They had the advantage. But they chose not to. They disabled some ships, destroyed others that wouldn't retreat. But they never went for total annihilation. They fought to defend, not to conquer. And somehow, that made them more dangerous than any enemy the Empire had ever faced. "We tell them the truth," he said finally. "That we encountered a species that's more advanced than us. That we lost because we were outmatched in every way. And that if the Empire doesn't change its approach, if we keep trying to conquer and dominate, humanity will end us. The High Council will never accept that," Captain Norval said. "Then the High Council is going to get a lot more Valorians killed," Kethavar replied. He looked at the stars streaming past as they fled toward home. "Because I've spent 70 years fighting for this empire. I've conquered worlds. I've destroyed enemies. I've done terrible things in the name of imperial glory. And today, for the first time in my life, I met an enemy I couldn't defeat. Not because they were stronger, but because they were smarter, better, more human." He laughed bitterly at his own choice of words. "Sir?" Captain Norval looked confused. "Nothing," Kethavar said. "Just realizing that for 3,000 years we've called ourselves the apex of civilization. The peak of galactic evolution. And it was all a lie. We were just the biggest predator in a galaxy that hadn't met any real hunters yet. Today we met them, and we learned that humans are better predators than we ever were." As the absolute victory continued its journey home, carrying news of the Empire's greatest defeat, Kethavar made a decision. He would speak to the High Council. He would tell them everything. And then, whether they listened or not, he would do something no Grand Marshal had ever done in Imperial history. He would recommend peace. Not conquest, not subjugation, peace. Because the alternative was extinction. The High Council chamber on Valoria Prime had never been so chaotic. Councilors shouted over each other. Some demanded immediate war. Others called for caution. A few even whispered the forbidden word, peace. Grand Marshal Kethavar stood in the center of it all, silent and still. He had delivered his report 3 hours ago. Since then, the council had been tearing itself apart, arguing about what to do next. "Enough." Councillor Miracel's voice cut through the noise. She was the eldest member of the council, and her word carried weight. "We accomplished nothing with this chaos. Grand Marshal Kethavar, I have one question. In your professional military opinion, can we defeat Earth in a full-scale war?" The chamber fell silent. Every eye turned to Kethavar. He chose his words carefully. "If we commit every ship, every weapon, every resource the Empire has, if we're willing to sacrifice millions of our people, if we use planet-killer weapons and genocide tactics, then maybe, possibly, we could destroy Earth." He paused, letting that sink in. "But it would cost us everything. And even if we won, we would face rebellion across every system we control, because every subjugated species would see that the Empire could be challenged, that we could be hurt, that we could be beaten. The Empire as we know it would end either way." "Then what do you suggest?" Councillor Treshikor demanded. He was one of the hardliners, still calling for total war. "That we bow to these primitives? That we let them humiliate us?" "They've already humiliated us," Kethavar said bluntly. "Twice, first with Admiral Treshkol's fleet, then with mine. Pretending otherwise is foolish. What I suggest is that we do something the Empire has never done in 3,000 years. I suggest we talk to them, not as conquerors to conquered, but as equals." The chamber erupted again. Equals? The Valorian Empire didn't have equals. The entire structure of imperial society was built on dominance and hierarchy. But Councillor Miracel raised her hand for silence. "The Grand Marshal makes a valid point. We have 3 options. 1, total war that we might not win. 2, Accept defeat and watch our empire crumble as other species rebel. Or 3. Negotiate with Earth. Find a way to coexist. Coexist? Treshkor spat the word. We are the Valorian Empire. We don't coexist, we rule. We ruled, Kethvar corrected quietly. Past tense. Our age of absolute dominance is over. Earth proved that. The question now is whether we adapt or die. While the council argued far across the galaxy, Captain Sarah Chen sat in the observation deck of the UESC Retribution. Through the reinforced windows she could see Earth hanging in space, blue and green and beautiful. Home. You okay, Captain? Commander Park joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed her one. Just thinking, Sarah said. She took the coffee gratefully. We won the battle. The Empire retreated. But this isn't over. Not really. You think they'll try again? I don't know, Sarah admitted. That's what worries me. If they come back with everything they have, we'll win. I'm confident of that. But a lot of people will die. Theirs and ours. And I keep thinking about what Admiral Kowalski said, about not becoming what we're fighting against. Park nodded slowly. The Empire rules through fear, through overwhelming force. If we defeat them the same way, we just become another empire. Exactly. Sarah stared at Earth. 500 years we prepared for war, but maybe we should have spent more time preparing for peace. Her communicator beeped. Admiral Kowalski's face appeared on the small screen. Captain Chen, we've received a transmission from the Valorian Empire. They're requesting a meeting. Neutral territory. They want to negotiate. Sarah felt her heart skip. Negotiate? Not surrender terms? Negotiate, Kowalski confirmed. Grand Marshal Kethvar himself will be attending. He specifically requested that you be present as well. I think your actions made an impression. When? Sarah asked. 4 days from now. There's an old space station in unclaimed space halfway between Earth and Imperial territory. It's been abandoned for centuries, but we can make it habitable. Captain, this is what we hoped for. A chance to end this without more bloodshed. Or it's a trap, Commander Park said. Possible, Kowalski agreed. That's why we'll have the entire First Fleet positioned nearby, cloaked and ready. But Captain Chen, I want you to go in assuming this is genuine. Give them a chance to do the right thing, Sarah nodded. Understood, sir. I'll assemble a diplomatic team. Good luck, Captain. The future of 2 civilizations might depend on this meeting. The screen went dark. Sarah looked at Park. 4 days to prepare. Better get started. The abandoned station was called Unity 7. It had been built centuries ago as a trading post between species that no longer existed. Now it floated in empty space, slowly spinning, a monument to dead civilizations. Human engineers spent 2 days making it habitable again. Power restored, life support functional, a single large meeting room prepared with a table and chairs. Nothing fancy, nothing that might be seen as a statement of dominance from either side. When the day came, Sarah arrived with a small team. Admiral Kowalski was there, along with 2 diplomats and 4 security personnel. They wore simple uniforms, unarmed as a show of good faith. The Imperial delegation arrived exactly on time. Grand Marshal Kethvar led them, accompanied by Councillor Miracel and a handful of aides. They wore full military uniforms decorated with medals and rank insignias. For a long moment, the 2 groups just looked at each other, human and Valorian, species that had been preparing to destroy each other. Finally, Kethvar stepped forward. Admiral Kowalski, Captain Chen, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Thank you for requesting it, Kowalski replied. Please sit. We have much to discuss. They settled around the table. The moment felt surreal to Sarah. Days ago, she had been fighting this man's fleet. Now they sat across from each other like business partners. I'll be direct, Kethvar said. The Valorian Empire cannot defeat Earth in a war, not without destroying ourselves in the process. This is a fact I have explained to the High Council. Some of them accept it. Others don't, but enough do that they sent me here to negotiate. Negotiate what exactly? Kowalski asked. Peace, Kethvar said simply. Real peace. Not subjugation. Not conditional surrender. Peace between equals. Councillor Miracel leaned forward. The Empire has ruled for 3,000 years through conquest.
That age is ending.
Earth proved that. But we still control 847 systems. Billions of beings. Massive military and economic power. What we're proposing is a fundamental restructuring of how the galaxy operates. Go on, Kowalski said carefully. For the next hour they talked. The Empire laid out a proposal. Immediate ceasefire. Recognition of Earth's independence and sovereignty. Disarmament of planet-killer weapons under neutral supervision. Most surprisingly, a new galactic government where all species had representation. You're proposing democracy on a galactic scale? Sarah asked, surprised. More like a federation, Miracel explained. Each system maintains its own government, but major decisions affecting the galaxy are made by a council where all species have equal voice, including the Valorians, including humans. What about the species you've conquered? Kowalski asked. The ones currently under Imperial control? They will be given a choice, Kethvar said. Remain part of a reformed empire with full representation and rights, or declare independence? It will be their decision. Sarah exchanged glances with Admiral Kowalski. It was more than they had hoped for. Far more. But could they trust it? Why? Sarah asked directly. Why are you offering this? You could fight. You could sacrifice everything for the chance to maintain your empire. Why choose this instead? Kethvar was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of experience and hard-won wisdom. Because I'm tired, Captain Chen. I've spent 70 years fighting for the Empire. I've seen worlds burn. I've ordered actions that haunt my dreams. I did it all because I believed the Empire was necessary. That our strength maintained order. That conquest was better than chaos. He looked directly at her. Then I fought your fleet, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Strength paired with restraint. Power used only to defend, not to conquer. You could have destroyed my entire battle group. You let us retreat. You chose mercy when you didn't have to. And I realized that everything I believed was wrong. The Empire doesn't maintain order. It creates fear, and fear isn't sustainable. Eventually, people fight back. So this is about survival, Kowalski said. Not accusing, just stating fact. Yes, Kethvar admitted. But it's also about being better. 3,000 years of conquest haven't made the galaxy peaceful. Maybe it's time to try something different. They negotiated for 2 more days, working out details, establishing timelines, creating oversight mechanisms. It was hard work, made harder by 3 millennia of mistrust and violence. But slowly a framework emerged. The Treaty of Unity, they called it, named after the station where it was signed. Key provisions were simple but revolutionary. Immediate ceasefire. All species in Imperial territory would vote on independence within 1 year. Those who chose to stay would have representation in a new galactic council. Planet-killer weapons would be destroyed. Technology sharing would begin, with humans providing some of their innovations in exchange for Imperial knowledge. Most importantly, all member species agreed to mutual defense. If any outside threat appeared, they would face it together. There's one more thing, Kethvar said as they prepared to sign. Earth's military. Your ships. Your weapons. They're the most advanced in known space. What are you going to do with that power? Sarah answered before Kowalski could. The same thing we've always done, defend, protect. We didn't reach the stars to build an empire. We came out here to survive, and maybe, if we're lucky, to help others do the same. Then perhaps, Counselor Miracel said softly, the galaxy chose the right species to bring us into this new age. They signed the treaty. Representatives from both sides marking the document that would change everything. When it was done, Kethvar extended his hand to Admiral Kowalski. The human admiral took it without hesitation. My empire will struggle with this, Kethvar said. Many will see it as defeat. It will take time to change 3,000 years of thinking. Change always takes time, Kowalski replied, but it's worth it. 5 years later, Sarah Chen stood at the podium in the new Galactic Council building on Unity Station. The station had been expanded, rebuilt, transformed into a symbol of cooperation. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 40 species sat. Valorian, human, Calthian, and dozens of others. Some had chosen independence from the old empire. Others had stayed, but with full rights and representation. All of them had a voice. Sarah was there to give a speech about military cooperation and shared defense. But as she looked at the assembled representatives, she thought about the journey that had brought them here. From the moment Valorian scouts had discovered Earth 500 years ago, through centuries of preparation and fear, to the battles that almost started a war, to the peace that ended an empire. 5 years ago, she began, humanity and the Valorian Empire were enemies. We fought, we hurt each other. Both sides lost people we cared about. But we also learned something important. We learned that strength isn't about domination. It's about protection. And we learned that the strongest thing you can do is choose peace when war seems easier. She gestured to where Grand Marshal Kethvar sat. He had retired from military service but served as an advisor to the new Galactic Council. The Grand Marshal told me once that the Empire spent 3,000 years trying to create order through fear. It didn't work, but in 5 years of cooperation, we've accomplished more than centuries of conquest ever did. We've shared technology, we've explored new worlds together, we've defended each other from threats. She paused, looking around the chamber. We've proven that different species with different histories and different beliefs can work together. Not because we're forced to, but because we choose to, and that choice makes all the difference. The applause that followed was genuine, not just polite diplomatic clapping, but real appreciation. After the session, Kethvar approached her. He looked older now, his scales more faded, but his eyes were peaceful in a way they hadn't been during the war. "Well spoken, Captain," he said. "Just telling the truth," Sarah replied. She smiled. "How's the memoir coming along?" "Slowly," Kethvar admitted. "It's harder than commanding a fleet. Writing about everything I did, everything the Empire did, but it's necessary. Future generations need to know the mistakes we made so they don't repeat them." "What are you calling it?" Sarah asked. "The day we met predators who chose not to kill," Kethvar said. "Because that's what changed everything. You could have destroyed us. You chose not to. That choice saved both our civilizations." Sarah nodded. "And now we protect each other. Strange how things work out." "Not strange," Kethvar said. "Inevitable. The universe is too big, too dangerous for any one species to stand alone. Even humans, even the Empire. We need each other." Later, back on the UESC Retribution, which had been permanently assigned to Unity Station, Sarah stood in her quarters looking at Earth through the viewscreen. Commander Park entered with his usual knock. "Admiral Kowalski just sent orders," he said. "There's a developing situation near the Galactic core. Another empire, even larger than the Valorians, showing aggressive expansion. They don't know about Earth or the treaty yet." Sarah smiled slightly. "Time for another teaching moment?" "Seems like it," Park replied. "The Retribution's been requested specifically. Apparently our reputation has spread. Some call us the ship that ended an empire. Others call us the ship that saved one." "Both are true," Sarah said. She turned from the view screen. "Prepare the ship. Let's go show this new empire what happens when you choose conquest over cooperation." As the Retribution powered up its quantum drives and prepared to jump, Sarah thought about the speech she'd given, about choices and strength and doing what's right instead of what's easy. The Valorian Empire had chosen conquest for 3,000 years. It brought them power but not peace, security but not safety, control but not respect. Humanity had chosen differently, and in 5 years that choice had transformed the galaxy. Now they just had to keep making that choice, every day, every encounter, every time they met someone new among the stars. Because that's what separated humans from the old empires, not superior weapons or faster ships or smarter tactics.